Hey, football fans, welcome back to another episode of Lions Latest, the show where we gather around and talk about the greatest team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions. I'm your host, Bryan Hanes, and we have some great topics to talk about today, so let's jump straight into the video. Also, got my Lions hat on, starting off with the camps this week. I'm very excited and getting a little hype, and then we got the Hall of Fame game coming up too, so it's not too late to start, or too early, rather, to start wearing your merch. But let's just get into our straight topic. Previewing Miles Frazier, the Lions selected offensive lineman Miles Frazier out of LSU in the fifth round of this year's draft. Though playing mostly at right guard, Frazier has familiarity at left guard and right tackle. He was a consistent, dependable starter for the Tigers, and he allowed only 4 sacks over the course of his 3 seasons. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. What Holmes had to say about him, and I do care about what Brad Holmes has to say about these players. He said the coach currently we have for offensive linemen is great, that is not going to cross, or he's going to cross train them at everything. Knowing that he's never done one position before makes him a little worried. So knowing that he has played in multiple positions with an elite level coach really gives him a good outlook for this guy. That's versatility, that you can do a lot of things for your guys at a roster standpoint. And grabbing a guy like him that can do multiple things definitely makes Brad Holmes a lot happier. That has a lot to do with losing guys this year, especially Frank Ragnow, moving guys around. So having a guy who can do multiple things is definitely what we're looking for at the moment. Top quotes from Frazier's conference call include, "I'm more of a mauler type offensive lineman. I just want to get style points. My offensive lineman coach at LSU, Brad Davis, is a coach that does a lot with style points, extra effort, knockdowns, pancakes. So I'm always looking forward to give that extra effort and extra finishes." Bang. That's awesome. I love to hear that out of a guy, right? He's not just going out there and doing his job. He's giving 110%. He wants to get that extra flash at the end. He wants to give the fans what they want. He wants to give, ESPN a little clip to look at of him just knocking dudes over. And I think that's what we see out of players like Penei Sewell, right? They're out there doing their job, but they're knocking dudes over. They're getting mean. And I love that kind of effort out of offensive linemen. So having Miles Frazier say that definitely gets me hyped. Little fun fact, at the 2025 Senior Bowl, Frazier was voted as best offensive lineman of the week by his teammates on the American squad. So what's good for him? Why should we be excited that we grabbed him, one of our later picks? I think he's good for depth. I think he's good for flexibility, given we are going to probably move guys around a lot on the line this year. Maybe not a lot, but we'll definitely be moving guys back and forth. I know Graham Glasgow is definitely going to have some position switches. I know that Tate Ratledge, when he gets going, is probably going to be our main center slash, guard, tackle type deal. And then we're dealing with guys who are getting a little older on that line as well. So it's good to have depth there and good to be flexible, maybe give them some rest, throw this guy in. He's 23 years old. He's 6'6", 324 pounds. And just looking at his stats from the combine, he had a 6.18 on prospect grade. So honestly, for what I've seen from him in college and the kind of stuff he put on the combine, I think he's definitely going to be a backup. I don't really see him getting starting stuff this year, but he's absolutely got potential to grow into a starter over the next few years. And we already talked about how getting that depth in O-line is going to be really important, because we've already said, we have a great O-line, we have studs at this position, but over the course of time, those studs get older, and then all of a sudden we might just, now we don't have that great O-line anymore. Now Jared Goff doesn't have anyone backing him up in the pocket. That's not good. Having a guy like Miles Frazier, who's just got room to grow and grow and grow, and I can see him being one of those elite level starters, is excellent. He got a 74 on athleticism. He had a 67 on production with a total score of 71. His 40-yard dash time was 5.24. His 10-yard split was 1.79. He had a 31 vertical jump, a 9 broad jump, and then he had 27 reps on the bench press. So he's a strong guy. He's a big guy. I'm really excited to have a guy like this on the team. Like I said, having that depth and having the potential to grow, I'm going to be really excited to see where he goes in the next few years. Miles Frazier, welcome to the Detroit Lions. That being said, let's move to our second topic of today. We have talked a lot about tight ends on this show in the last few videos, but I think it's really worth noting who's going to be the tight end 3, right? Laporta and Wright are obviously our top 2, and it's going to be tough for the 4 remaining on the roster to to either get to Wright's level and surpass him, or just go for that 3rd position, because Laporta's obviously got the 1st. The coaching staff really trusts him, and he has a track record of consistency and playmaking for him on the team. Talking about Brock right here. So what are some guys that are potentially going to go up and take this next step? Kenny Yeboah, Yeboah rather, has been in the New York playing for the Jets for the last 4 seasons and has been more of a blocking tight end than a pass catcher with just 9 career receptions. The Lions ask a lot of their tight ends when it comes to the run blocking. We know that. That's kind of how the scheme fits. So that's where he has a chance to make his mark and earn this next role. Zylstra's strength, however, Shane Zylstra, is more in pass catching. He has 4 touchdowns in the number 3 role for the team in 2022. That should be a terrific competition between him and Yeboah, and might come out down to who can prove their worth more when it comes to their non-strength, a little more than the other. So who, for Yeboah, might be, can you produce more catching? For St. Gilster, it can be, can you go down and block better than this guy? It's going to be a lot of what the other ones can do better, and they're not dominant, like, category, right? I'm really excited though. We know that running is a big part of our game, so having, run blocking guys down the field is going to be super important. I think Yeboah does a really good job of that, and I've seen some of his work in the Jets. He just goes down and makes his assignment. He's not afraid to create contact, and that's what you need out of a tight end. So going to some of our undrafted rookies now, Deal from Auburn and Horton from Indiana are both undrafted, looking to make their mark. The great thing is that they'll have 4 preseason games to do it and not in the standard 3 because the Lions are playing the Hall of Fame game this month. Deal is more of a blocking type, and Horton is a pass catcher. So like we just said, kind of back and forth here. So let's talk about Yeboah. He played 9 games. He had 5 receptions for 47 yards, and he averaged 9.4 yards on those catches with a touchdown. Shane Zylstra, we know, is more the catching type. He played 12 games last year for 1 reception, 22 yards. He was mostly blocking last year, I'd like to say. He had no touchdowns. And then in college, Luke Deal, 12 games, 3 receptions, 6 yards, 2 yards average, and he had a touchdown. So, hey, out of those 3, at least you're getting a tutty. Zach Horton, on the other hand, had 13 games for 21 receptions, 189 yards. He averaged 9 yards a catch with 4 touchdowns. So he's definitely going to be that more catching type like we mentioned. So who's really going to go up and take that next step? I think, honestly, Kenny Yeboah has the best chance of doing it. I love Shane Zylstra. I've loved to see his career on the Lions just as a guy. When Shane Zylstra goes out, me and the guys we like to get hype because he's just one of those sleeper guys who can go make a good catch if you need him to. I think with the way our scheme's working right now, despite the offensive coordinator change, I think Yeboah is going to be the best for us just to go down and be that guy who makes those blocks, despite having Brock Wright already. I think we're really going to look to Samuel Porter for those receptions just because of what he's shown us already, and I don't think there's really need to have someone compete for that receiving tight end role with him. That's just my opinion. I think it's good to have 2 blocking tight ends to fit the rest of the scheme, and then just have Samuel Porta being that vertical threat down the line. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you guys think out of these guys. Who's going to go and take that next step up to become the tight end 3 next year? I'm really curious what you guys think, because to me, it is kind of up in the air right now. These undrafted rookies look good, but they're obviously going to need time to develop and become proven starters for the team. All right. Moving to our third topic of the day, talking about Aik Robertson's performance as a Lion so far. I really like this guy. Aik Robertson came from the Raiders. I'm actually partially a little bit of a Raiders fan, but despite that, I was excited to get him. I had seen what he had done for them, and he had a great season with us in a secondary position role that we desperately needed a fit. So in 2024, he signed a 2-year, $9.25 million contract with the Lions, including $3,300,000 signing bonus and a $4,500,000 guaranteed, and an average salary of $4,625,000. Aik Robertson is known for his scrappy, competitive, and versatile play style as a defensive back, particularly in the slot. He excels in man coverage, which we know we've moved our scheme more to man, so it's good to have a guy like him, and against smaller receivers, showcasing good instincts, timing, and physicality. Despite his smaller size, he plays with that big man mentality, often trying to out-physical opponents. He's also praised for his ball skills, his ability to track the ball, and his awareness on the field, as well as his willingness to tackle despite that lower size. So he's very versatile. He can play both inside the slot or as an outside cornerback, despite, being more of a slot guy. And then as a man coverage specialist, he excels at covering quick, smaller receivers in that slot position, but he can go to the outside and do the long balls if he needs to. He has great ball tracking skills, and he has that natural pre-snap instinct that really helps him track down plays and figure out what's going to happen before the quarterback even gets the ball in his hands, which is really great. That makes him good for also run support. That makes him good for reading big, long shots, and he can just make the players around him better when he knows what's going to happen, right? So let's talk about his stats real quick. His last season with the Raiders, he recorded 50 combined tackles. That 12 of them were assisted. He had a sack and 2 interceptions. One of those receptions he returned for 40 yards. His first year with the Lions, he had 50 combined tackles. 10 of them were assists. He had 0 sacks, 0 interceptions, but I don't think that should be something to worry about. He's kind of had a history of getting interceptions because of his great ball tracking skills. And I think his second year with the Lions, when he's more comfortable with the system and the guys, we're going to see a big boom from Aik Robertson this year because he definitely proved it to us last year. He's got some beef with Justin Jefferson. Not necessarily beef, but they've been playing with each other for a long, long time since high school. And in that last game of the season against the Vikings, we really needed to win to make sure we secured the number 1 seed. And he went up against Justin Jefferson with that kind of injured secondary. I know some of us were worried, but have faith. He got it done. He held Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the league, to only 3 receptions for 54 yards. So he had one of those bigger catches, but no touchdowns. He actually had a few pass deflections in the red zone, in the end zone, stopping Minnesota from scoring that was desperately needed touchdowns. To me, he played out of his mind. Out of his mind. He locked up Justin Jefferson in this game, and it got me really hyped to see it. I don't think this is only for Justin Jefferson. I think this will translate to other, big star slot receivers, outside receivers in the league. I think he can get the job done, and I think he's got potential to be one of those star cornerback names, especially now that he's playing on a more complete team, more pieces to help him out, stuff like that. With the new defensive coordinator, there's not entirely sureness about where he's going to lie. I know Aaron Glenn, being a former cornerback, was definitely helpful in that position, but I don't think a coaching change is going to necessarily change the way he plays. I think he's a scrappy player who is extremely intelligent, a student of the game, and I'm really excited to see what he does in this upcoming season. Thank you, Aik Robertson, for being a Lion. Stay for a few more years, why don't you? We definitely need to start thinking about more contract extensions for a guy like him. All right, moving on to our 4th and final topic, if you can call it that. We're going to discuss some more of your comments because you guys have been giving me a lot to talk about. Starting off with Superman24, he says, you are on spot with this Khalif subject. I think Tesla will be possibly take on more of a punt returner role, as well as slotting him into that 3-4 wide receiver role. I do not think Hutch will play in the Hall of Fame game. The last thing you want to do is risk him getting hurt and then far too soon in the preseason game, and you will probably not see him until week 1. Could be wrong, of course. I also agree with you on the Maui Goa possible selection for the Lions. Decker is aging and not going to be around forever. It would nice to have a stud in the waiting. I totally agree with you. You guys definitely let me know what you thought about the Hutch thing I said. I was just saying it'd be cool to see him go up against his old coach. Obviously, I don't want to get him hurt, and I think keeping him out is definitely going to be the best thing for the team. You guys definitely let me know how you felt about that. But no, I definitely agree on the Khalif subject. I think Tesla, they've talked about his punt returning potential, but now that Dominic Levitt has kind of had these more reps and stuff in practice, I definitely think, especially with his speed and his size, he will take on that punt returning role, but definitely not a impossibility for Tesla. And then, yeah, Maui Goa, absolute stud. Be really cool to get him after. Thank you so much, Superman24, for your comment. I really appreciate it. Moving on, we got Paul Parton, 8208. He says, get a Lion's cub, treat him like a child, and he will behave as a dog, but also as a lion. Right. It will require a lot of preparation for him to be trained and then reapply him for the sidelines. This is me talking about, Dan Campbell wanting a lion on the sidelines. I have no idea what to even say about that one. Behave as a dog? I don't know if that's necessarily true, but Paul Parton, I love your enthusiasm, and I'd absolutely love to see a lion on the sidelines as much as you and Dan Campbell. So thank you so much for your comment. And our last comment, 101 Less, says, I think it's more likely that Jameson Williams will have a standout year than Amon-Ra personally. I've heard the new schemes are more likely to be vertical, plus the tendency for Goff to look to Amon-Ra early might need to change to open up more shots downfield. It just seems like that it'll only get tougher for Amon-Ra to get free since he's identified as such a threat and defenses already have a key on him. But with Jameson Williams, he has extra gear, and that's hard to defend against. Love them both, though, and respectfully them both too. And respect them both too. So yeah, no, I agree with you on this one. I think Amon-Ra is definitely it's gonna be hard for him now that he's identified as the super threat on the field, double teaming, stuff like that. And yes, we've talked about John Morton loving the pass game, definitely going to go more vertical. Jameson Williams is definitely going to get more love this season. I totally agree with you 101 less, but I don't think it's going to stop Amon-Ra from getting those receptions because he's got strong hands and great route running ability. I think he's still going to be able to get open and do his thing. That's just what he does. So that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for all your comments and watching today's video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you made it to this point of the video, let me know what you think about Aik Robertson and what kind of year he's going to have. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys have been really great supportive-wise. And leave some more comments so I can talk about him in later videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and you have a great rest of your day.